Okay, so now we're going to talk you through is how to actually start the paneling on the return section of wall here. Now, what you want to make sure you do here, guys, again, in the pursuit of achieving symmetrical cuts, you want to make sure you match the width of this return piece with that of the closing board here. So this was 63mm, so therefore you rip this one to 63mm also. Now bear in mind that when you're making this measurement, again, just like we've done with the actual starter board, you want to make sure that you're hooking the tape on from the actual rebate here on the actual piece of cladding, okay? You hook your tape on from here, and you literally mark out the 63mm, both ends, strike the line and rip it, just as we've previously done. And again, you'll notice that I'm also, on this occasion, I'm starting with the tongue. I'm actually retaining the tongue portion of the board, and I'm starting with that facing in the direction which we're going to panel towards, okay? So again, I'll just reiterate, if we actually keep the tongue in place, and we actually slip the groove over the tongue as opposed to the tongue into the groove, it's much, much easier to do, okay? So again, what we'll do here is, we can actually start putting this in place. Now just again, just to point out, guys, you have to remember when you're putting this on the wall in your real life scenario, what you want to be doing is actually put the construction adhesive on the back of the panel. Okay? It is the construction adhesive that keeps it stuck to the wall. If the pins are only there to actually facilitate holding the board in place while the adhesive sits. Okay? So, in regard to actually positioning this first piece here, okay, it doesn't really matter all that much where we start, okay, in relation to the edge of this board here, because towards the end of the process you're going to see us actually cover that inside conjunction there with a piece of right angle cover slip here, okay, just like that. But what is very, very important, as it was when we started, the starting board, this edge here, the leading edge, has to be plumb, okay? So I'll show you how to achieve that now, very simply. Again, nice. Take a level. Make sure it's plumb. Then what we'll do is we'll proceed to actually install each successive piece of cladding until we come to the last board here. Okay, so once we can't fit in one whole board, that means then we have to stop in the process, record measurements and rip that board. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop now, and again just to actually help proceed along with the process and make it that bit quicker, we're not going to bore you with the actual installation process up until we reach that closing board. We'll then come back and show you how to deal with that scenario. Now folks, what I want to do is walk you through the process for actually cutting the closing board in, okay? So it's actually very, very similar to the annular cutting techniques that we've previously shown you, okay? So what we need to do is we simply need to record a measurement from the wall here out onto the actual lip here on the actual tongue, okay? So from the wall to the lip here on the tongue, we take a measurement up top and down the bottom, okay? Then what we'll do is we'll transfer that measurement that we record here from this edge here, which is the actual groove in this scenario, because we want to maintain the groove here to slot over the tongue. So from the groove out in this direction. Okay, so when I take a measurement from the wall here up onto the lip here, I can actually see that it's 60mm. And then when I check down the bottom, I can see that we're nearly bang on 60mm there, probably about 59mm. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll deduct 3mm from that measurement, okay, top and bottom, just to facilitate getting this board in that much easier, okay. The resultant gap will easily be covered by the actual starter board on this wall here, okay. So, we know from this wall here to this edge here, 60mm, so what we'll do is we'll transfer that now from this edge here onto the board, 60mm, and I'll do the exact same down here. 60mm. And all I need to do then is join those two lines with a straight edge, just like we've done previously, and actually cut the board. Okay, so we've established that the width of our closing board needs to be 60mm in order for it to fit tight. But like I said, we're going to reduce this a little bit just to facilitate an easier fitting of the board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to deduct 3mm. Instead of it being 60mm, we're going to just mark it out at 57mm. So that's what we've done. We've come off this edge, and we've made a mark at 57mm. We've come down here, and we've made a mark at 57mm by hooking on from this edge here. Now all we'll do is take a straight edge and we'll actually join those lines up just like we've done previously, and then we'll actually cut along that line and we can install the closing board just as we've done every other time. Okay, so now that we've cut our closing board, I'm just going to show you how to pop it in. So the easiest way to do this is to actually put tight to the actual guide rail, try and engage it on the tongue as best as you can, and then give it a friction fit in onto the wall. And if you need to prise it across, just take a pry bar and prise it across like so. Okay, so that's the closing board in place, and again we'll nail it in the exact fashion as we have done previously. That's that job done. Okay folks, now you've got a little bit of a decision to make, okay? You've got to decide whether you want to have symmetry of put here, or do you want to have symmetry of put here and here. So what I mean by that is, okay, we can either make this starting board here the same dimension as this board here, so it looks symmetrical, but that may mean that when we get to the closing board over here, it could be narrower or wide, okay? If we want to make the symmetry of put equal here and here, well, what we can do is we can lay this wall out in the exact same fashion that we laid this wall out. But that would then eventually mean that we're going to have a different size starting board here than the closing board here. So that's a decision that you've got to make. It's an aesthetic kind of decision. If whichever one you think looks best, that's what you should go with. Okay? But on this occasion, what we're going to do is we are just going to have symmetry of put in the corner here. So what we're going to do is we're going to rip our starter board with the exact same width as this board. And that's going to be done in the exact same way as we ripped this board here. So what we're going to do is we're going to just do that, and when we return we'll have that in place and we'll continue on and show you the rest of the process. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut this starter board from this wall here so it's the exact same dimension in terms of its width as this closing board here, okay? So whilst we cut this one at 57 mil, we're going to cut this one at actually 50 mil. And the reason for that is, okay, by the time we overlap this board here with this starter board, we're going to reduce its appearance on its apparent width by 7 mil. Okay, so by putting this board at 50 mil as opposed to 57, we'll then get symmetry of cut. Okay. Okay, so this is our closing board actually ripped to width now. Okay, as you can see, we get a perfect fit, a really tight fit all the way up down along the entire length of the actual two boards here. Now, I just want to point something out, okay? How we actually achieved that fit, okay, was due to the fact that we cut it at a severe angle, okay? This technique is known as back cutting, okay? So what it means is it just leaves a sharp edge here and it prevents any waste, any material behind the actual leading edge of the cut from interfering with the joint closing up, okay? Now, another good reason to actually back cut your material like this, okay, is this, okay? Let's say when I went to fit it, the joint wasn't as perfect as this, and say there was a little gap like this or so, okay? What you can do is, you can just take a sanding block, and because that sharp point is present, okay, it actually facilitates much easier removal of the material. You can just sand it down like so, and that'll help close the joint. Or indeed, you could use a block plane like this, and you could actually plane off some of the material just like so, okay? But just remember, the watchword here is, and the best practice tip, is back beveling the material, okay? So again, the process is very much the same. Put it in place, hold it tight, nail it, and now we're ready to proceed across the wall and to actually infill the rest of the boards. And again, what we'll do is we'll actually get the bulk of that done, and when we get to the closing board we'll stop and we'll actually talk you through that process. Okay folks, so we've reached the point of procedure now where we have to go and cut in our closing board against the architrave. Now previously in the session we walked through the process of how to put the closing board in this corner here. However, this is quite easy to do purely because this wall was relatively flat, and all we had to do was take measurements from this wall here to the outer edge of this board here, on the top and the bottom. Make marks, draw a straight line and cut it, okay? However, life isn't always that simple, as you will find when you actually go to tackle this in your own home. So what we've done here is we've set up a scenario whereby we're going to be putting in the closing board here against an irregular surface, okay? So what we've done is we've actually mocked up a scenario here where the wall is undulating considerably, okay? Which could actually be the case in real life. So just to illustrate how badly undulating this wall is, we're actually going to put a straight edge against it here, and you can quite clearly see that we've got a big hump here, then we've got a divot, and then we've got a big hump again, followed by another divot, okay? So you would think that this is actually going to be really difficult to put that closing board in around this undulating surface, okay? But what we're going to do now is we're going to set up to actually show you, well, to share with you the best way that we know how to actually cut around that and achieve a really professional, seamless finish in around this area here, okay? So what we've done is just to show how good you can actually get this cut is we've actually pre-cut a piece, and I'll just show you now how good and how tight you can get in around that actual architrave here. So as you can see, that's a good of a fit you can actually achieve, okay? And what we're going to do now is we're actually going to talk you through the process of how we achieved such a tight fit, okay? Okay then, the first thing we need to do is actually take the board that we want to actually cut into this space here, okay? And what we do is we position it on top of the second to last board, and it's vitally important that we make sure we position it perfectly on top of the other board. And what I mean by that is make sure that this grooved edge here is perfectly aligned with the grooved edge of the board below. And what we do is then we tack it in that position, and I'll make sure it's aligned perfectly along the entire length of the board. And again, I'll tack it in place down here. Now, what we now need to do is we need to take a measurement from this edge here right across to this edge here. So we're going to get a measurement, an overall width of the board minus the tongue. So it's literally just from this shoulder here out to here. And what I've done is I've taken a piece of timber and I've cut it to that exact dimension. So from this edge here right to this edge here. So remember, minus the tongue, okay? And then what I've done was I've literally cut it to a point just to facilitate it actually getting into all the little contours of the wall here much more easily, okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take this actual scribing block and I'm going to register it against the undulating surface that we're trying to actually cut the piece of timber around. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to register my pencil against the outer edge here. Now it's vitally important that as I proceed up the wall that I try and keep this gauge here, this scribing block, as level as I possibly can and as tight as I possibly can to this surface here, okay? That way I'll be actually transferring an accurate profile of this surface here onto this board. However, if I was to let the actual scribing block start to move up and down, what would happen is I wouldn't actually be scribing an accurate reflection of this surface here onto the actual board. I'd be simply doodling, okay? So the process goes like so. So all I have to do is make sure I hold the actual scribe block tight against the surface which we're scribing into, and I hold the pencil in such a way that's leaving a nice crisp line on the actual board we intend to cut. And I just take my time nice and slowly all the way up the wall, all the while making sure that I'm registering the scribe block nice and tightly against the wall, and I'm holding the actual scribe block as perpendicular to the scribing surface as I possibly can. And there you go. As you can clearly see, we've transferred the contours of this wall onto the actual paneling which we need to cut in as our closing board. So what I'm going to do is now, guys, I'm going to take this off and I'm going to use a combination of a handsaw and a coping saw to cut this profile out. And as I do so, I will make sure that I cut it at an acute angle, so I try and leave a point on this edge here, just like we did earlier in the segment when we were fitting this closing board, and that will facilitate hopefully a much better fit against this wall here. So we'll do that now.